Would you be able to keep your job if you attended office only 13 days of the 261 working days excluding weekends? I doubt it. At a time when Times Now is questioning the privileges of Shiv Sena's goon MP Gaikwad, it would be remiss of your channel not to ask, why are perks and privileges extended to Sachin Tendulkar and Rekha? Up front, I would like to point out that both MPs are subsidized heavily by taxpayers to represent their interests in Parliament, but demonstrate utter contempt for the job by barely showing up. Here are some hard facts that prove their utter disregard for public service. Hard fact 1. Rekha and Sachin, between them, have a dismal attendance of 5 to 8% respectively compared to the national average of 78%. Yes, the national average stands at 78%, and they have bothered to show up only between 5 and 8% of the time. Hard fact 2. Sachin has missed all meetings of the Standing Committee on IT. Now, he was put on that because he was thought to be in tune with Gen Next, a young face, someone who perhaps has an eye to the future. Not one of those committee meetings has Sachin Tendulkar attended. Hard fact 3. Both MPs have not participated even in a single debate. Debates are important because in debates you can actually force and forge opinion, unalloyed opinion, which you bring to the table at the behest of your constituents. In this particular case, of course, they're nominated. They're nominated. They don't technically have constituents, but still, it is important as thinking individuals of our society to weigh in when an opinion is sought, especially in forums where lawmaking is the norm. Let's throw this open today for some amount of engaged debate. We're also inviting your calls this evening. We want to hear from our viewers. Joining me, former Solicitor General of India, Harish Salve. Also with us will be KTS Tulsi, MP of the Rajya Sabha. Atul Wassan, former Indian cricketer, will be with us, as well as Jas Arora, a celebrity. I want to first start with you, Mr. Salve. You've taken up many causes. You've championed the cause of the Lal Batti, etc., etc., championed against the cause of VIP culture. But privileges are being extended to two individuals. Now, I'm not singling them out. I'm not saying that there are not other MPs who actually also skip House proceedings or don't show up, etc. But here is a case of two individuals, Mr. Salve, who have made it a habit of skipping. What do you do?
See, first of all, I think we need to remind ourselves that when we say we have the Westminster model, we do. It's a bicameral house. But we don't have the House of Lords. There was a time where becoming a Lord was a trophy. We have the Council of States. Council of States is not a peerage. It is a solemn duty to represent the interests of the states in a legislative system where union has the predominant voice. So it's a sacred duty. This is not a peerage or a club. Unfortunately, in India, Rajya Sabha memberships are regarded by some as trophies, and that's why you see senior business persons and people like that who I don't know whether they have any serious interest in parliamentary business want this as a trophy on their shelf. And that's what it is. And it's the sad part is governments of the day nominate such people. Legislatures are very serious business in two ways. A nominated member, particularly Rahul, according to me, is the equivalent of a crossbencher.
Yeah.
Means you don't have to subscribe to any political ideology. You're the voice of sanity. You're the moderating voice. You have to be the moderating voice in the House. Your participation in the debate and your work on committees, you're classically multi-partisan, not even bipartisan.
Yeah.
So it's a very solemn duty to be a nominated member, and we've had some excellent nominated members. Look at Fali Nariman's interventions when he was a Rajya Sabha MP on crucial issues. I know when my father was in Parliament, he once told me, we were divided on a constitutional issue. We said, let's turn to Fali. Because he is a nominated member, he will give us the correct position without being divided on any line. So this is the whole idea of having nominated members of this kind. And unfortunately, some people think it's yet another trophy to be added to their list of decorations. Well, I think that perception needs to be cleared by governments by making sure they will nominate only those who are serious about legislative work and not people who have otherwise great achievements to their name, but look at this as a trophy gathering exercise.
Okay, very, very, very well put, I would say. Let me open this up. Let me bring this to the attention of Jas Arora first and Atul Wassan. Jas Arora, I think what Mr. Salve is saying is that being unalloyed, the word I used, being unalloyed actually allows you to be the voice of reason. And when you're absent yourself in houses where positions are being taken and interests are sometimes reflected in a partisan manner, you can actually be the voice of reason. And therefore, even more so, Sachin and Rekha are guilty of letting the people down.
I totally disagree with you. My apologies. Good evening, everyone. My full respects to whatever Mr. Salve just said. First of all, we have to remember that we are talking about a Bharat Ratna here. We're talking about somebody who's a Padma Shri. We have to also remember that they were nominated to the Rajya Sabha, but were they given the responsibilities of what they excel in? Do they excel in a certain field? Then why were they not given the responsibility in Parliament to do so? I don't know the politics of things, but it's for me, as a common man, I would say that first of all, let's not call them celebs. They have excelled in their fields. Sachin brings patriotism to our hearts. He alone can gather millions of people to do some great work. But are they being given the responsibility, Rekha ji given the responsibility of heading something in the film industry? We get millions and millions and millions of rupees in taxes from the film entertainment business. But somebody who has so much knowledge, has she been given the responsibility to head an institute? And the same goes with the master. I mean, he is patriotism. He can stand anywhere in the world, and he brings pride to us. It's so sad that people are trolling them and saying so many things. He's a Bharat Ratna. He has worked so hard. He's not, I hear people saying, oh, they are rich, they're famous, they're this. They have worked so hard day and night to be where they are. I understand Mr. Salve is totally right that, okay, the attendance in Parliament, by just attending Parliament doesn't mean that they are going to, achieve something.
You're doing service, so you're bringing into disrepute your own contribution, etc., etc. Okay, fine. One second. Let me just get in Prasanna, our viewer calling in from Chennai. Prasanna, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm calling from Chennai. Yeah, just I'd like to tell you that whatever the debate which I have raised today is excellent one. Just I want to inform you that just I need one more information regarding the accountability of each and every MLA. What is their responsibilities and what they have worked? Just I want even media to expose that, so that we'll be knowing about what MPs are doing, whether it is okay, or whether their working is up to the mark or not. So when they need some facilities, they are thinking about the facilities.
Okay, so you say that they must be made accountable, and we need to actually pin accountability. Fair enough. Let's bring in Venkatesh very quickly from Bengaluru before I bring in once again Mr. Salve to respond to the opening remarks of Jas Arora. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Rahul Shivshankar, sir. So, I am a teacher working in Sindhi High School, Bangalore. It gives me... Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, sir. We can hear you.
Sir, it gives me pleasure to speak to you this evening.
Okay.
And I like these parliament proceedings right from the age of 13 years, sir.
Right.
And I admire and adore Mr. Sachin Tendulkar, who has secured the highest civilian award of this nation.
Okay.
But to what extent he is responsible in not even attending the Rajya Sabha proceedings, leave alone taking part in any fruitful debate. And being a member of standing committee and not taking part in the proceedings of the standing committee.
So he's not doing justice.
Unacceptable, sir.
He's not doing justice. Okay, let me go across to Harish Salve. Harish Salve, of course, that's the popular opinion. But you can't take away, as Jas Arora says, the contribution of these two individuals to discourse, to a narrative, in his case, patriotism, you know, a feeling of pride, national prestige, what have you.
I am a huge Sachin fan. Huge Sachin fan. It fills my heart with pride when I see that man. It filled my heart with pride when Sir Bradman received him and spoke about him the way he did. He deserved the Padma Vibhushan. He deserved the Bharat Ratna. He deserves every trophy which he has got and more. Rajya Sabha membership is not a trophy. It is not an award. It is inviting somebody to participate in the most sacred duty, making laws for a country billion strong. Bring your wisdom, bring your experience to bear. That is what Rajya Sabha membership is for. Standing committees, as you know, most of Parliament's work is done through standing committees. Such valuable work is done. The bureaucracy is taken into account by standing committees. That's the job. This is not a trophy on somebody's shelf. And that's the mindset which bothers me. Sachin deserves every accolade he gets plus 10. This is not an accolade.
Okay, not an accolade.
That's the mindset we need to fix.
Jas Arora, are you convinced? Are you convinced now?
Salve sir, shouldn't they be heading the fields that they've excelled in? I don't know the politics of it. I don't know how it works, sir. But just for a common man, he excels in cricket. Shouldn't he be
as a member in the Rajya Sabha? No, hang on.
Taking
as a
the
member
youth
in the
and the
Rajya
nation
Sabha,
with him?
One second. Mr. Jas Arora, as a member in the Rajya Sabha, he can introduce any subject he wants for debate and discussion. He can make every day in that particular house count for sport. I can tell you that.
Can you imagine?
And
can you imagine how important his intervention on BCCI would have been?
Absolutely. Can you imagine that? How important? I want to bring in Atul Wassan on that point. Atul Wassan, where do you stand on this? Because, you know, no one can take away. And we all respect Sachin Tendulkar. We respect Rekha. Done a lot for, you know, bringing femininity into our living rooms in a manner which was dignified, etc., etc. You've had, of course, Sachin, who's done a huge amount to put Indian cricket right there, up there, in the world standings, etc. But unfortunately, he hasn't done his duty. And I'm not saying this with a degree of, you know, pique. He hasn't done his duty by the people, unfortunately, when it came to serving in the House.
Well, I've listened to, yes, I've got the point. I've listened to Salve sir and Jas also, and you know the rhetoric, which is pretty obvious here. You know, I'm not going to dwell on it. You know, I'm not going to use it as a crutch. But there are two things to it. First of all, subjectively and objectively. Objectively, you mentioned these two people. You know, and these two people probably, I don't know about Rekha ji, but Sachin, I'm sure, did not lobby to be nominated. You know, it was a prestige which is added to the upper house if Sachin is added because of his core competence, which is in sports, and also his image, where he's such a known Bharat Ratna that, you know, if he's added, and I'm sure somebody approached him and he's there. Not unlike other people like corporate head honchos like Dr. Vijay Mallya, who probably lobbied to get or even paid for a nominated post in Rajya Sabha, which is, everybody knows, it's an open secret that you can buy a seat there, you know, and then you hobnob with the politicians to lobby for your projects or to look good. No, Sachin is not in that category. At least he adds his name to social projects. He takes up, let me finish now. I've listened to everything. I'll just say my piece and be out of it. So I'm just saying, at least Sachin, you can use in social responsibility. He's taken villages and all.
Yes.
If he cannot add his core competence to the matters which are discussed there, he's not a Wharton or Harvard graduate. He's not a social scientist. I'm sure I agree to the point that if he has admitted or he has allowed himself to be nominated, he should have at least taken on more time. But that's besides the point. At least he's been seen to be doing good things. He comes for social advertisements, obviously doesn't charge for it. At least just not dance at film awards and just look good, you know. At least he's adding some value. So I think it's very harsh of people to just say that okay, he's not come and attended. And what are the other 500 something nominated and elected members achieved in the last year? What have they could not pass a single bill. How many days did we waste? So just hold Sachin Tendulkar or people who are nominated to the upper house and hold them accountable for not doing the job.
Well, Mr. Salve, you know that there are some individuals in government as of now who have been debating even whether we should retain the upper house, because over the years it has become a house not really for considered and constructive debate but divisive and obstructionism. And many people say that these individuals have not a care in the world because they don't really have to answer directly to the people at all. So why even have the palaver of an upper house? That's the other question that could be asked on the back of what Atul Wassan is saying.
Well, Rahul, there are constitutional situations where Rajya Sabha's vote becomes very important because states are involved, and where the interest of states is affected, and many times it is affected by union legislation, constitutional amendments. It becomes very important to have a Rajya Sabha, and let us not damn Parliament for what we have seen, and all of us are extremely disappointed by what we've seen in the past few years.
Yes.
Institutions have stood the test of time, and I'm sure these bad days will pass.
Thank you.
We have seen some fantastic work being done in the Lok Sabha in the last 5 days. But let me come to the point. It is not a criticism of Sachin Tendulkar, and I have not a scintilla of doubt that they would have lobbied with Sachin for him to become MP, not the other way around. I have no doubt in my mind. I have a problem with the way political parties appoint nominated members when they are in government. That's the real issue. You must bring people who can be effective Indian equivalents of crossbenchers, who can add a non-partisan flavor to debates in the House.
Absolutely.
Who bring that breath of fresh air into the House.
You are holding,
not a part of the politics.
The governments of the day primarily responsible for treating Rajya Sabha
entirely, not primarily,
as trophies. That's an important point. I like the fact that you brought in some nuance. Let me just bring in some more viewers before I bring in KTS Tulsi. Mr. Srinivasan calling from the UK. Go ahead, Mr. Srinivasan. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, hi. I had a couple of points to make.
Yes.
First of all, contribution is not... There are two types of contributions. One is a physical presence in the House.
Right.
And the other is contribution in his role as a member of Parliament, in his or her role. And I think Sachin Tendulkar has done a great job there. He's adopted and changed the face of one village, and now he is adopted and changing the face of a second village.
Okay.
So he has made contributions, albeit outside the House. Secondly, there is not a whole lot happening in the House anyway. For most of the last 6 odd months, or perhaps more, Rajya Sabha has been disrupted every day.
Okay, that's a point that we just did. We just discussed that point with Mr. Salve. He has his own take on that, and I want to go across to Mr. Subramaniam, calling in from Oman before I bring in KTS Tulsi. Yes, go ahead, sir.
See, what I would like to make a point is that I totally agree with Harish Salve. What we are talking about is they're all individually very right people in their own field. But as far as the Parliament is concerned, at least they have to make their presence. Their presence is very, very important. They can't be absent, and their percentage, what we are talking about, is too low. They have to lead from the front, and they should be an example.
Okay.
And whatever their knowledge in their debate, they can participate. But not coming to the Parliament is not the right way of...
okay, not the right way. KTS Tulsi, the UPA government. Now, you've been allied to the UPA government. I just want to ask you, when you considered handing out these seats to these individuals, were you doing so because you thought that these were trophies, this would ingratiate you with the masses, this would make you seem it's a gesture of populism, rather than any real considered promotion of the activities of the House, which are predominantly making laws?
No. Activities of the House predominantly are not like that. There are very high-class debates that I have seen on a number of issues. A number of times the parties rise above their narrow interests and debate the issue in the interest of the country. And I think that this provision in the Constitution was that there are certain persons who cannot make contribution. The House needs some specialist inputs with regard to the policy of law. And for example, Mr. Swaminathan on agriculture.
No, I understand that.
And
but then you're faulting the wisdom of the House and the government of that day from offering Sachin Tendulkar and Rekha the nomination in the first place, because you're seeming to suggest that they have no core competency. Okay, 1 second.
No.
Yeah.
I really think that Sachin Tendulkar could have spoken in the House about the policy which will propel India
let me bring
into sports
fair enough.
excellence.
I think that's the point. That's the point, Jas Arora. Let me just bring in former UPA Minister Jayanti Natarajan. Jayanti Natarajan, maybe you can explain to some of our viewers why the UPA embraced these two individuals, brought them into the House, and then persisted to perhaps not even counsel them when it seemed that they were barely attending.
Well, I don't think it's fair to say that it was somebody is being embraced, Rahul. I think it's a very important issue that you've raised. I feel it's more than unfortunate. It's really seriously unfortunate that the people who have been nominated to Parliament, which is something that is a tremendous honor and privilege, are not actually carrying out their duty. I can think of several stellar nominated MPs who've done remarkable work in Parliament during their parliamentary career. Shabana Azmi, for example, Javed Akhtar. People have come from the cinema and other world, even R.K. Narayan. I remember
Mr. Salve referred to Fali Nariman and an interjection.
Oh, Mr. Fali Nariman, Mr. Parasaran, incredible contributions whenever all of them were speaking. But it is absolutely, it's totally wrong, I feel, for these individuals to have accepted the nomination
and
to not actually turn up in Parliament.
That's a point. That's a point. Then why accept?
It's not because I was a part of that government. Certainly I had no input into it. I feel when you actually nominate somebody who's iconic, like Sachin Tendulkar, you expect something from him.
Right.
And if he doesn't deliver, I believe he should resign. I don't think he should actually continue.
Okay, let me put that point. Thank you very much, Jayanti Natarajan, for joining us and giving us your perspective. I want to bring in Mr. Salve. Final question to you, Mr. Salve. Do you think, therefore, that both these worthies should quit? Should they resign?
Why should they not start participating? See, I think I've met Sachin once or twice. He's a man with a solid head on his shoulders. Don't ever underestimate the wisdom of the common man. And as Tulsi rightly said, the policy of lawmaking, maybe he will bring a perspective which doesn't strike the person who's in the day-to-day grind of politics. I hope he can spare a little time and come to Parliament and give his contribution to the country. Sachin has done wonders for the country. Let him come and hit a few sixers in Parliament. I'm sure he'll do wonderfully well. He should give it a shot.
Okay, well, he doesn't have much time. Brought in the winter of 2012, doesn't have many more years to contribute. No one underestimating the wisdom of the common man, but perhaps here questioning the commitment of the common man. We wouldn't have been asking for opinions from the common man if we've been even in the slightest bit dismissive of that opinion. But thank you very much, Mr. Salve. Thank you very much, Atul Wassan. It's been illuminating. KTS Tulsi and Jas Arora. Sorry, Mr. Tulsi, we came in late to you. But we move on to other big stories on India Upfront. The OPS camp courted fresh controversy on Thursday after it creatively used its electric pole symbol to look like the iconic two-leaf symbol of the AIDMK, calling it a violation of rules. TTV Dinakaran, who is contesting the polls from Sasikala's faction, threatened to go to the Election Commission, assuring meat traders that no wrong action will be taken against them. Yogi Adityanath asked meat traders to come to him if someone takes any action without legitimate basis. After coming out of the meeting, he assured meat traders that their interests will be secured. Moving on, 52 passengers were left injured after 8 bogies of the Mahakoshal Express derailed earlier today in UP's Mahobad district. An inquiry has been ordered to ascertain the cause of derailment. The government announced rupees 50,000 each to seriously injured and rupees 25,000 to those who suffered minor injuries. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath took tough action against the cheating mafia and those aiding this dishonest method. So far, 1,419 students have been caught on charges of copying. Exams at 54 centers have been cancelled, 57 centers debarred, and 359 FIRs registered in all after we brought you an expose. Okay, there's a massive debate raging over Vande Mataram and whether Vande Mataram is Sabka's song, to put it in a different way. This debate was sparked in the city of Meerut, known in the annals of history for the 1857 rebellion against the British. It was here where Dilli Chalo slogan was born. It was here when Muslims and Hindus together sacrificed for the nation. But in 2017 India, the mayor of Meerut has raised a very, very shocking and divisive demand. He has called upon all corporators, irrespective of whether they are Hindus or Muslims, to compulsorily sing the Vande Mataram song. If they didn't, he asked them actually to quit the country, quit India. Now, it's a patriotism test that has been set for Muslim corporators because Muslims are ambivalent about singing Vande Mataram. And you can judge for yourself the consternation that followed. Here is an excerpt of what actually happened on the floor of the corporation in Meerut. Well, you saw those scenes and you saw the manner in which some of these corporators are asking their Muslim colleagues to chant the Vande Mataram or quit India. Reactions to that story have been multiplying all through the day. Asaduddin Owaisi, the first off the block, and he was scathing. Let's listen in.
It is unfortunate that in Meerut, which was the epicenter of 1857 War of Independence, wherein Hindus and Muslims fought for India's independence, even before anyone was there. And now you say from that place that if you want to live in India, you have to say this slogan. It is disrespect and it is a cardinal sin which is being committed by such people who are saying this, that you have to say this. I mean, at least please remember the history of 1857 and that place of Meerut.
It's not mandatory for you to sing it, but you have to stand to attention. And let me tell you, in the Constituent Assembly, the first 4 stanza of the Vande Mataram was declared by the President of the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, that it is an alternative national anthem. So therefore it has the status of national anthem. It can be alternatively sung, and first 4 stanza, because the other stanzas there's Durga and things like that. So they chose the 4 stanzas. They are purely secular stanzas, and if they don't want to sing it, no problem, but they must stand to attention. A lot of people say a lot of slogans, but ultimately the law is what matters, no? Nobody can force anybody to leave or stay.
सरकार का क्या मानना है, क्या पक्ष है कि वंदे मातरम को लेकर क्या कंपल्सरी किया जाना चाहिए या फिर लोगों के ऊपर छोड़ देना चाहिए, ऑप्शनल रहे?
देखिए, इस मामले में सरकार से कोई मतलब नहीं है। वहाँ क्या मामला हुआ क्या नहीं मैंने नहीं देखा है, और जब तक मैं देखूँ ना उस पर मैं कोई बात करना नहीं चाहता, क्योंकि मेरे सामने नहीं गुजरी है ये बात, तो इस पर हमारा कोई पक्ष नहीं।
लेकिन वंदे मातरम को लेकर सरकार क्या मानती है?
सरकार का इसमें कोई, देखिए सरकार की कोई वो नहीं है। सरकार सबका साथ सबका विकास चाहती है। सरकार सिर्फ विकास और विकास और विकास चाहती है। बाकी वो जो आप सवाल कर रहे हैं, वो सवाल का मेरे पास कोई जवाब नहीं है, उस पर मैं कुछ नहीं बोलना चाहता, क्योंकि सरकार काम करने के लिए आई है। जनहित की सरकार है, वो जनता का काम करने के लिए आई है और जनहित के काम कर रही है सरकार। हमने मूलभूत परेशानियों पर सरकार काम कर रही है और हमारी जो प्राथमिकताएं हैं संकल्प पत्र की,
Okay, you've heard a number of opinions. Let's go out to our guest joining us, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi this evening from the Bharatiya Janata Party, Yogendra Yadav, founder of Swaraj Abhiyan, also with us Dr. John Dayal, human rights activist. We're expecting Dr. Ghanshyam Tiwari of the Samajwadi Party to be with us in a few moments. I want to begin straight off with you, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. Should Yogi's team be turning singing Vande Mataram into a test of patriotism? Why is Yogi Adityanath's team, cooperators from the Bharatiya Janata Party, sir, making this compulsory? The Supreme Court has refused to make this compulsory or wade into this demand. Why are cooperators saying that if you don't sing it, go to Pakistan or quit India?
I think this statement that Yogi government is trying to make it compulsory is not appropriate. As you know that every session of parliament starts with Vande Mataram. And was there any point of time when Vande Mataram was issue of religious angle? You remember when Vande Mataram was sung in the first AICC session? It was in 1896 Calcutta session, which was chaired by Rahmatullah Ahmad Sayani. He was having no problem. Which was the biggest freedom movement started for the first time, which was against the division of Bengal in 1905, when both Hindu and Muslim joined together and forced
in
the
October
Britishers to come back.
1937, the Congress Working Committee that met in Kolkata also recognized and appreciated the validity. No, since you raised the Congress working session, I'm also talking about it, sir. We are going back in time. October 1937, the committee recognized the validity of the objection raised by Muslims to certain parts of the song. Now we know that there are certain parts of the song that could, in fact,
now I'm coming to that point.
Minority sensibilities. Okay.
Now I'm coming to that point.
Okay.
Against the division of Bengal, both Hindus and Muslims sung together Vande Mataram. But the problem started in 1923 when Muhammad Ali Jinnah has said that he is opposed to singing of Vande Mataram. And subsequently, which you are quoting, that in 1937 Congress accepted. But, my friend, in 1947, on the night of 14th and 15th of August, the first meeting of Constituent Assembly started with Vande Mataram sung by Sarojini Naidu.
Okay.
So those who have decided to be the part of Indian nation and to depart from the Jinnah's ideology, they have followed and they have accepted the birth of this nation by singing Vande Mataram. Then where is the problem? And still if today somebody wants to raise the objection, it means they want to go back to time on the same objection raised in 1923. So you want to connect to the same ideology which was divisive. So those who are supporting are not divisive. Those who are opposing are somehow knowingly or unknowingly connecting to the divisive
promoting a two-nation theory which was rejected by a majority of Muslims on the subcontinent. That's the contention. Okay, Professor Yadav, where do you stand on this?
Rahul, actually I was in two minds whether to appear on this show or not, and the reason was simply this. that I think the more we discuss some of these idiotic things, the more publicity we give to it. And to my mind, if all the television channels of this country were to simply make a rule, that is to say, whenever Mr. Akbaruddin Owaisi or Zaki Nayak or Praveen Togadia or now Mr. Ahluwalia or any one of them tries to say something like this with an intent to provoke, with an intent to get cheap publicity, just do not report it. Their business model would collapse because their business model is based on free publicity given by television channels. Actually, there is no controversy here, and if television channels were not to publicize it, this would be a non-issue. For once, I agree with parts of what the BJP spokesperson has said, and he is right in one respect, which is Vande Mataram has been a very strong symbolic representation of our nationalism. Yes, there were debates, there were controversies, and all that was finally laid to rest by the Constituent Assembly of this country, which said we would take only the first two verses and not the rest of the song. And it is our national song today. So there should be no controversy about singing this song. There can be, should be controversy about making anything compulsory. And anyone who tells me that I have to praise my own mother, the mother that gave birth to me, otherwise I have to leave this country, I'm sorry, I'll stand up and say, this you can't do. You can't ask me to praise the mother that gave birth to me on gunpoint. That's not done. This is not on. Who are you to tell me what I should do in order to stay in this country? How can anyone dictate it? Muslims are not tenants in this country, and Hindus are not landlords of this country. We have to give up this mentality.
Hindus
and the
are
best
not
thing
landlords.
therefore would be to just shut up these controversies and go on to something. Yes, and Muslims are not tenants of this country.
You talked about the first two stanzas. Now I want to just quote out of what A. Faizur Rahman had written a few years ago. Now he is a peace activist and executive committee member of Harmony in India, based out of Chennai. And he said that the first two stanzas cannot be seen in isolation by detaching them from the main song, particularly when the motherland referred to in those stanzas has been clearly identified as Durga and Lakshmi in fourth stanzas. Professor. In other words, the salutations offered to Mother India by singing the first two stanzas would in fact amount to paying obeisance to Hindu goddesses. This is what Muslims are objecting to. So there is, even when it comes to the first two stanzas, a level
Rahul,
of ambivalence.
To my mind,
Professor.
Rahul, I know this has been a long debate, very complex debate, but I really would plead with everyone today. Honestly, this question was addressed 70 years ago by people who were far more intelligent than most of us are, especially in television studios, by people who were far more sensitive to the communal question than all of us are, who had seen what communalism could do this country, and whose commitments to secularism was much deeper than in the case of many of us. If they agreed that the first two verses can be retained, let us now move ahead. These things are settled things of this country. So I would say with all respect, Vande Mataram is a great thing, Bharat Mata Ki Jai is a great thing. There is nothing anti-Islamic about these things.
John Dayal.
Yes, there were some references in Vande Mataram which were controversial, that has been settled. Now let us move on, and honestly, let us, all this to my mind has
said
nothing
it's
to do
settled,
with
let's
Vande
move on,
Mataram.
but obviously
it has
it's not
nothing to do
settled
with
in the
culture.
minds of
it
the
is a political
corporators in
controversy deliberately generated right now.
No, well, sir, I don't know about that. Look, now, you can say that individuals in Uttar Pradesh, in the Bharatiya Janata Party, are deliberately trying to stir the communal pot. You could easily make that claim. But there are others who will look upon that from a charitable perspective. So I just want to first bring in also Dr. John Dayal. Dr. John Dayal, go ahead with your views.
Sir, I want to make 4 quick points. Let me tell Professor Yadav, I am opposed to anybody, including me, telling the media what to do, what not to do. You are free to cover idiots. You are free to cover brilliant people. That's your freedom. Let me not encroach on it. 2, let me also recall history. I mean, everybody is here recalling history. Let me recall the history of Jana Gana Mana and remember myself and recall it for you, that there was a political group that was opposed to Jana Gana Mana also.
Yeah.
They thought it was a tribute to the King Emperor, and I won't remind you which that particular group was.
Well, no, name it, because everyone should know. Since you're going back into history, are you referring to the RSS because there's a tribute to the Adhinayak? We understand what you're saying. So, no, I would like you to, sir. I would like you to, because it is important in the context of this debate. Don't shy away.
I would say that the Sangha Parivar has been most focused on Vande Mataram and was not keen on Jana Gana Mana. And they're the two parities. Otherwise, which country has two songs? There are these two songs in a historical context. And as Professor Yadav said, let's keep it settled. The expurgated Vande Mataram is neutral. It's expurgated. Unless you Google with mischief, nobody would know what the rest of the stanzas are. And unless you continuously harp in the context in which Jana Gana Mana was written, nobody knows. Just now, the child born 10 years ago knows only the first two stanzas, let him be. However, I would vehemently oppose compulsion in anything. I'm in the Supreme Court, together with many others, saying yoga is a very good thing, but don't impose it. All good things cannot be imposed. Vegetarianism, I'm sure, is wonderful, but don't impose it on me. I am opposed to state imposition. And finally, sir,
well, then you would oppose. Then you would oppose the Supreme Court's decision to also make standing up to the national anthem compulsory. Then you would also have a problem with that.
I quite intend to go back to the Supreme Court and request a larger bench to remove this.
Is there a political compulsion behind the Singh compulsorily Vande Mataram diktat that was issued by Team Yogi in Meerut? That's the fundamental question we are asking, and it's going straight out to Sudhanshu Trivedi of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Trivedi, your response. What is the compulsion?
There are certain things which are having some decorum and certain protocols. Yes, of course, certain things should not be imposed, but those who are saying that we will not do it, they are also trying to create an unnecessary, what Yogendra Yadav ji has said, in my opinion, they are trying to create an idiotic
But
logic.
you don't tell them, sir,
if you are
to
having
go to,
some problem.
to quit India.
I accept, okay, you are having
You don't say that we are going to cut off your hands.
Let me complete the sentence.
No, but sir, no, 1 minute. This is a problem
let
here.
me complete the sentence.
If
you are having
difference between bigotry
nobody is having right to say cut off your hand, but this is also true. The same logic applies when it comes to national anthem. I would like to remind, there were certain children from some missionary school in Kerala 15-20 years back. They have gone to Supreme Court that they should be allowed not to sing the national anthem because of some of their religious reason, but the Supreme Court has not allowed. So there is not going to be any limit of this. And one more thing, if somebody is having any problem on religious grounds, तो मैं ये भी कहना चाहता हूँ, भाई music भी तो Islam में कुफ्र है, then you should ban from Muhammad Rafi to A.R. Rahman. Then the acting is also against anti-Islamic. Then you ban the Khan brothers. And so many things are anti-Islamic, but you are just picking and choosing those things which are having a political connotation. It shows there is a nefarious design opposing, not a rational thought behind opposing anything.
Okay, nefarious design.
You have just committed contempt of the Supreme Court. You have misquoted the Supreme Court. They will stand up in respect, but they will not sing. That is what the Jehovah's Witnesses said. And here, if you are showing respect for Vande Mataram, you don't have to sing it. Most people should not sing it. They sing it so terribly. They sing the Bangla.
Now you yourself have seen, then the next limit will be that in national anthem somebody can only stand up, not sing.
Because
there will be no limit for this.
More than enough. More than enough. My daughter-in-law sings Vande Mataram beautifully in Bangla and Hindi. She can. I can't. I stand up and I salute. That's enough. Showing of respect is enough. And you cannot ask me to go to Pakistan or England or New York or wherever.
I will break the hands and legs of those who hesitate in saying Vande Mataram.
I just ask one question. Is there any country in which you can say that on national anthem you will just only stand up and you will not sing?
All countries of the world. All countries of the world.
This discussion is only here in this country.
All countries of the world. Every country in the world, you just have to stand with your hand on your heart.
Okay.
That's enough. That's enough.
Professor Yadav, I want to come out to you because, you know, we need to really explore the motivations behind this sort of passion for patriotism. First of all, do you think that there is...
aggressive passion.
No, one second. Do you think there is some motive behind this diktat to make things compulsory? And can we then attach, by that example, motives to the Supreme Court also, which many people have accused of trying to foist patriotism down people's throats?
Number one, I don't think there is any... all this has anything to do with patriotism or patriotic urge. Patriotic urge is something deep, very nice. What we are witnessing is something altogether different. I don't know if there is a grand design of the UP government. I would not know. I would begin by suspecting that it has to do with something very, very simple. You know, it's called the 15 seconds of fame syndrome. You do something strange, outrageous, the whole country notices
surely,
you.
Professor Yadav, the grandees of the Supreme Court were not looking for 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
Surely the grandees of the Supreme Court were not looking, sir, for 15 minutes of fame. When they said to instill patriotism, we need to make everyone stand up in cinema halls and sing the national anthem, or do it in schools on a daily basis.
I would risk
I was speaking of the Meerut thing, which was, to my mind, clearly intended to be a provocation to create a situation where there would be counter-reaction and it would polarize. So this was actually meant only to polarize. About the compulsion in general, I would make only 2 or 3 points. Number one, as I've said again, Vande Mataram is our accepted national symbol, should be respected, can't possibly debate it. But any attempt to force will raise a question. Number one, who is asking me to, offer my evidence? What right does that person? Supreme Court is a different matter altogether.
No, why is it a different matter, sir? To be purely pedantic.
What right does...
No, I challenge you there. I'm saying that to be purely pedantic...
I will address that
just because
separately.
The Supreme Court has the weight of, considered opinion behind it, doesn't mean that it is slightly off the mark when it says that the one way of instilling patriotism in the minds and hearts of the people is to make them stand in the middle of a movie or just before a movie and cross their hands and sing the national anthem. Sir, you know better that the force of law cannot always be a justification.
Allow me to say most respectfully, absolutely, they may have the constitutional authority, but in my opinion, this is not a very wise decision. Any attempt to instill any kind of emotion through any kind of force is counterproductive. I would like to touch my father's feet, but if someone said, touch his feet or else, then I would get up and say, I shall not. Who are you to ask me to do so?
So if it's on the back, of compulsion, then
I will not force it amounts to disrespect.
It amounts to disrespect.
Number one, what is wrong is the compulsion part of it. Can I just add one more thing? Can I just add one more thing? Apart from compulsion being wrong, unjustified and counterproductive, it also gives a very poor image of our country to the world.
Okay.
Because any country who is trying to force its citizens to adopt some of the symbols of patriotism or whatever, comes out looking so weak in the eyes of the rest of the world. There must be something wrong with you. Why
so the weakness of strong states is what Professor Yadav is referring to. The weakness, the intrinsic weakness of strong states is what he's talking about.
Confident nations don't do that. Only nervous nations do things of this kind.
Okay, nervous nations do this thing all the time. Okay, we leave it at that. The last word has not been said on this debate because the Bharatiya Janata Party has still got a point to make. We've run out of time.